In the dazzling world of fame, where legends shine under endless lights, some of the most powerful icons met their end in the most unexpected way, through a simple meal. Behind the applause and the glory, a quiet danger waited at the dinner table, turning ordinary food into their final mistake. These are the haunting stories of stars undone not by scandal or fate, but by the very thing meant to nourish them. Number 1. Zachary Taylor. On the blazing afternoon of July 4, 1850, President Zachary Taylor walked through the crowds of Washington, D.C., waving to citizens who celebrated under the punishing summer sun. He was a war hero, a national figure, a man whose strength and endurance were legendary. Yet, as he joined the festivities, no one, not even the president himself, could have imagined that something as simple as the food he ate that day would set off a chain of events leading to his death. After hours in the heat, Taylor tried to cool himself with what seemed like a harmless choice, a generous bowl of cherries followed by several glasses of ice-cold milk. Those who stood nearby recalled how quickly he ate, how refreshing the cold drink must have felt against the boiling July air. But in the 19th century, refrigeration was primitive, sanitation unreliable, and even fresh fruit or milk could carry dangerous bacteria. Within hours of returning to the White House, Taylor was struck by severe stomach pain that grew sharper by the minute. Waves of vomiting and dehydration left him too weak to stand, and by nightfall, the presidential residence had turned into a desperate sick room. Doctors were summoned one after another, but their tools belonged to a medical era that today feels closer to guesswork than science. They drained his blood, applied blistering treatments, and dosed him with mercury-based medicine, procedures meant to cure, but that instead pushed his failing body closer to collapse. For 5 agonizing days, Taylor lay in bed as his condition deteriorated. Newspapers described the eerie silence surrounding the White House, the way carriages came and went through the night, and the growing fear that the president might not survive. Despite all attempts to save him, Zachary Taylor died on July 9th, just 5 days after that fateful meal. His death certificate listed cholera morbus, a broad 19th century term covering severe foodborne infection. Later generations whispered about assassination, theories of poisoning by political rivals who opposed his stance on slavery. But when his body was exhumed in 1991, modern forensic tests found no trace of arsenic. The truth was far simpler and far more haunting. On a brutally hot summer day, bacteria from contaminated cherries, milk, or even the water used to wash the fruit likely sealed the fate of a sitting president. His sudden death reshaped the American political landscape, elevating Millard Fillmore to power and pushing the nation further toward the tensions that would explode into civil war. All because of a meal no one imagined could kill a leader. Number 2. Charles VI. On the crisp October evenings of 1740, Vienna's grand imperial halls glowed with warmth and celebration, unaware that within just a few days their emperor would lie dying. Charles VI, ruler of the Holy Roman Empire, had spent nearly 3 decades navigating wars, alliances, and the constant pressures of royal power. Though cautious by nature and disciplined in daily life, he had one weakness shared by many nobles of his age: a profound love for lavish banquets. And it was at one of these dinners, an evening meant to honor a successful hunting expedition, that fate quietly tightened its grip on him. At the celebration, servants presented an array of extravagant dishes, but the emperor favored one delicacy above all: wild mushrooms gathered from imperial forests. Multiple courtiers recalled how Charles VI returned for second and even third servings, praising their richness and earthy flavor. Yet among Europe's forests, edible mushrooms and deadly species often grew side by side, nearly indistinguishable to the untrained eye. That night, the emperor felt an unusual burning in his stomach, a sensation he brushed off as overeating. By dawn, the symptoms intensified: violent cramps, relentless vomiting, and waves of weakness that made even speaking difficult. Royal physicians hurried to his bedside, but their remedies belonged to an age before modern medicine. They offered wine with herbs, pressed hot cloths to his abdomen, and recited traditional cures designed more for comfort than survival. Nothing eased his agony. Over the next 2 days, the entire court descended into alarm. Ministers whispered through candlelit corridors as the emperor's condition grew critical. His skin turned pale, his pulse faint, and his voice brittle, fading between moments of delirium and exhaustion. Some courtiers suspected poison, a political assassination hidden beneath the veneer of a royal meal. But the timing, the symptoms, and the speed of his decline pointed to something far simpler: deadly mushroom toxins, likely from the notorious death cap, a fungus capable of killing even the strongest man within days. On October 20th, Charles VI took his final breath, leaving Europe in shock. His daughter, Maria Theresa, was the only surviving heir, an unprecedented situation that shattered the political balance of the continent and ignited the War of the Austrian Succession. Historians still debate whether negligence or misidentification caused the fatal dish, but one truth remains chilling: an emperor who had survived political storms, military conflict, and endless threats was undone by a single meal. His death stands as one of history's most haunting reminders that even the most powerful lives can be claimed by the smallest, most ordinary dangers. Number 3. Henry I. In the final days of November 1135, King Henry I of England, one of the most formidable rulers of the medieval world, rode through the forests of Normandy with the confidence of a monarch who had shaped an empire through discipline, strategy, and unyielding will. At 67, he was aging but still sharp, still feared, still respected. Yet it was not war, treachery, or rebellion that would bring his reign to an end. It was dinner. After a long hunt on a cold winter evening, Henry returned to his lodge at Lyons-la-Forêt, chilled to the bone and hungry. Servants prepared a lavish meal, but one dish stood above the rest: lamprey, a strange eel-like fish the king adored. Physicians had repeatedly warned him that the rich, oily meat strained his aging digestion. But Henry, stubborn as ever, brushed aside their concerns. He had ruled for decades, survived countless threats, and outlived every brother and enemy he ever had. What danger could a favorite meal possibly pose? That night, he ate heavily, praising the fish for its flavor and freshness. But before midnight, he was struck with intense abdominal pain that twisted through his body like a tightening rope. Witnesses wrote that he grew pale and cold, unable to stand, his strength draining as if poisoned from within. Medieval medicine offered little hope. His doctors believed he had eaten a surfeit of lampreys, too much of a rich, possibly spoiled dish. They tried warming him with blankets, offering tonics, and reciting prayers as his condition worsened by the hour. By dawn, Henry drifted in and out of consciousness, murmuring only fragments of words. Chroniclers recorded that he lay still for long stretches, his face sunken, his breath shallow, as if slipping deeper into a place beyond pain. On December 1st, the king who had unified England after years of chaos finally succumbed. He died quietly, surrounded by attendants who could do nothing but watch the slow extinguishing of a crown once feared across Europe. His death unleashed a disaster larger than any army. With no legitimate male heir, England plunged into a brutal civil war known as the Anarchy, a generation-long struggle between his daughter Matilda and his nephew Stephen. The kingdom fractured, lawlessness spread, and blood filled the land. And at the root of it all was a simple, avoidable tragedy: a meal ignored for its danger. Henry I had survived battlefields, uprisings, and political conspiracies, yet he fell to a plate of fish he refused to give up. A king undone, not by a sword, but by supper. Number 4. Marty Feldon. On the night of December 2, 1982, Mexico City glowed with its usual chaos of lights, traffic, and laughter, while inside a hotel room not far from the film set of Yellowbeard, one of comedy's most unforgettable faces was living his final hours. Marty Feldon, instantly recognizable for his iconic bulging eyes, razor-sharp wit, and brilliant timing, had spent the day on set making everyone laugh, the same way he had done for decades. To colleagues, he seemed tired but cheerful, full of the strange electric energy that defined his humor. Later that evening, he joined friends and crew members at a local seafood restaurant. The atmosphere was lively, and witnesses recalled how Marty told stories, cracked jokes, and made the entire table erupt in laughter. He ordered shellfish, one of his favorites, not knowing that this simple choice would soon cast a shadow over the film's production and Hollywood history itself. After returning to his hotel, Marty began to feel ill, first nausea, then sharp chest discomfort. He assumed it was exhaustion or bad food, even joking that the seafood might get its revenge. But as the night passed, the pain grew worse. By midnight, he collapsed alone in his room. Paramedics arrived as quickly as they could, but it was already too late. The official cause listed was a heart attack. He was only 48. Yet in the aftermath, a quieter, more troubling story grew. Friends like Graham Chapman insisted Marty had been suffering from severe food poisoning shortly before his death. Others mentioned that contaminated seafood may have triggered the fatal cardiac event. No single explanation was ever confirmed, and the uncertainty only deepened the tragedy. Hollywood mourned. Fans from Britain to America felt as though a rare spark had vanished. Marty was more than a comedian. He was an artist who made the strange beautiful and the bizarre unforgettable. His work on Young Frankenstein alone secured his place in comedy history, but his influence stretched far beyond a single film. In the years that followed, his name appeared in documentaries, retrospectives, and late-night tributes, often accompanied by the lingering question of what exactly happened on that final night in Mexico. A man who dedicated his life to bringing laughter into the world died quietly, suddenly, and mysteriously, possibly pushed over the edge by a meal meant to celebrate the end of a long working day. Marty Feldon's story remains one of Hollywood's most haunting reminders. Even the brightest lights can be extinguished not by scandal or fate, but by something as ordinary, as unnoticed as dinner. Number 5. John Ritter. On the evening of September 11, 2003, John Ritter walked onto the set of his hit sitcom 8 Simple Rules with the same warm energy that had made him one of America's most beloved comedic actors. For decades, he had been a familiar face in millions of homes, from the chaotic charm of Three's Company to the heartfelt roles that shaped his later career. He was in good spirits that day, joking with the crew, rehearsing lines, and moving with the confidence of a man who had spent a lifetime under studio lights. No one imagined that only hours later he would be fighting for his life. During filming, John suddenly felt a wave of nausea and discomfort after eating. It began as a stomachache, the kind that actors and crew often blamed on rushed meals between takes. But the pain sharpened quickly. He grew pale, sweaty, and increasingly disoriented. Staff rushed to help him as he doubled over, believing he was suffering from severe food poisoning. Even John himself insisted it must have been something he ate, something that would pass. But beneath the surface, something far more dangerous was unfolding. Doctors at the hospital initially treated him for the suspected food-related illness. Yet as minutes passed, his condition worsened dramatically. Tests revealed the terrifying truth. John Ritter was experiencing an aortic dissection, a catastrophic tear in the main artery leading from his heart. The nausea, the vomiting, the sudden collapse that everyone assumed came from contaminated food were actually the early signs of the deadly rupture. The confusion cost him precious time. Surgeons rushed him into emergency surgery, fighting desperately to save him. But the damage was too extensive. Just after 10 p.m., John Ritter was pronounced dead at the age of 54. The entertainment world fell silent. Fans who had grown up watching him laughed and cried as they remembered the joy he brought into their homes. Fellow actors described him as gentle, generous, and endlessly kind. Directors spoke of his professionalism, his instinct for humor, and his ability to make even the simplest line unforgettable. His sudden death became one of Hollywood's most shocking tragedies. A moment when a beloved star collapsed not from scandal, illness, or injury on set, but from symptoms everyone misread as a reaction to food. John Ritter's final hours remain a heartbreaking reminder of how fragile life can be. A man who made the world laugh was lost to a silent threat disguised as something ordinary, something anyone could mistake. In the end, it wasn't food poisoning, but the belief that it was cost him the chance to survive. Number 6. Gilda Gray. On a cool December evening in 1959, as Hollywood prepared for the glow of the holiday season, one of the silent era's brightest stars was quietly facing the final hours of her life. Gilda Gray, the woman who made the shimmy dance a national sensation in the roaring 1920s, had lived a life filled with fame, glamour, and adoration. But by the late 1950s, the spotlight had faded. The parties were smaller, the applause quieter, and the woman once hailed as a symbol of dazzling energy now lived a more private, fragile existence. A few nights before her death, Gilda attended an intimate Christmas gathering with close friends from her entertainment circle. The room was filled with warmth, nostalgia, and the soft glow of holiday lights. She smiled, laughed, and enjoyed a seafood dinner. Oysters, shrimp, elegant dishes she had eaten countless times throughout her glamorous career. But within hours, something began to go wrong. The next morning, she woke with sharp stomach pain and overwhelming nausea. She brushed it off as fatigue. After all, she had battled health issues for years and had learned to endure discomfort with quiet resilience. But by midday, the symptoms grew worse. A neighbor who checked on her recalled that she looked pale and exhausted, mentioning softly that she believed she had eaten something spoiled at the party. Doctors arrived promptly and diagnosed severe food poisoning. In the 1950s, treatment options were limited, and Gilda's body, already weakened from years of illness, struggled to fight the spreading infection. Over the next 2 days, her condition deteriorated rapidly. Her heart, long vulnerable, couldn't withstand the assault. On December 22nd, Gilda Gray died quietly in her sleep at the age of 58. Her passing shocked those who still remembered her as the mesmerizing dancer who once lit up vaudeville stages and silver screens across America. Born in Poland, Gilda had risen from poverty to international fame through sheer talent and determination. She brought the shimmy dance to life with hypnotic grace, starred in films like Aloma of the South Seas, and helped define the spirit of the Jazz Age. Yet her final chapter was far removed from the fame she once knew. Hollywood newspapers described her death with sadness, noting how a woman who once captivated millions had been taken by something as simple and everyday as contaminated seafood. Beneath the shimmer and glamour, she was human, vulnerable to the same quiet dangers that touch ordinary lives. For fans and historians, her story remains one of the silent era's most poignant tragedies. A luminous star who once commanded the world's attention faded away softly, leaving behind a legacy forever tied to the beauty she brought to dance and the fragility that ended her days. Number 7. Gaston Méliès. On the morning of April 8, 1915, the island of Corsica stirred with soft Mediterranean light, far removed from the bustling film studios and daring expeditions that had defined Gaston Méliès's extraordinary life. For years, he had traveled across continents with cameras, film reels, and a restless ambition inherited from his famous brother, Georges Méliès. But unlike George, who mesmerized the world with cinematic illusions, Gaston was the explorer, the producer who pushed film into jungles, oceans, and distant islands long before Hollywood existed as we know it. Yet it would not be an onset accident, a storm at sea, or one of his many risky expeditions that claimed him. Instead, it was a simple seafood meal eaten during a quiet moment at the end of a long journey. That spring, weakened from years of harsh travel through Asia and the Pacific, Gaston had retreated to Corsica to recover. Local fishermen offered him fresh shellfish, a humble meal from the sea he loved so much. But before the era of refrigeration, seafood spoiled quickly, especially in warm climates. Within hours of eating, he felt sharp pain grip his stomach. Fever rose. Dizziness clouded his thoughts. By nightfall, he could barely stand. Those around him tried to comfort him, but medicine in 1915 had few answers. A local doctor recognized the signs: severe shellfish poisoning, common and often fatal in regions without proper preservation. Through the night, his condition worsened. His body, already worn from a lifetime of travel, could not fight the infection. Before dawn, Gaston Méliès passed away at the age of 63. His death sent ripples through early cinema circles. While Georges Méliès would later be celebrated as the father of movie magic, Gaston had carved a quieter but equally daring legacy. He founded studios in New York, Texas, and Tahiti, filming landscapes no European or American audience had ever seen. He created travel documentaries decades before the genre existed, hauling cameras through tropical storms, deserts, and remote islands. His ambition expanded the boundaries of what film could capture. When news reached New York, trade magazines mourned his passing, calling him a pioneer whose films brought the world closer together. But the circumstances of his death became part of silent-era folklore. A man who survived long voyages, unpredictable climates, and the uncertainties of early filmmaking was undone by something as ordinary as spoiled seafood. Gaston Méliès's final hours remain a haunting reminder of how fragile even the boldest lives can be. A visionary explorer, a builder of cinematic bridges between cultures, lost not to adventure, but to fate hidden in a single meal. Number 8. Bala Singh. On the morning of November 27, 2019, the city of Chennai awoke to heartbreaking news that echoed across India's film industry. Bala Singh, acclaimed actor, powerful screen presence, and respected mentor to countless young performers, had passed away after a sudden and devastating illness. For decades, his face had been familiar to millions. Whether he played a feared gangster, a wise elder, or a troubled father, he brought an intensity and emotional truth that made even small roles unforgettable. No one imagined that something as ordinary as a meal would bring an abrupt end to such a remarkable career. Just days earlier, Bala Singh attended a family celebration, a warm gathering filled with conversation, traditional dishes, and the easy laughter of people who had known each other for years. Among the food served were seafood and spicy South Indian curries, favorites he had eaten throughout his life. But later that evening, he began to feel unwell. At first, it seemed like simple indigestion, the kind of discomfort anyone might shrug off. But by midnight, the pain sharpened. Nausea and vomiting followed, and by the next morning, his condition had grown alarmingly worse. He was rushed to a private hospital where doctors diagnosed severe food poisoning that had triggered a dangerous, fast-moving infection. Even with immediate treatment, his body, shocked, dehydrated, and fighting against toxins, began to fail. His heart struggled to keep up. By the morning of November 27th, despite all efforts of the medical team, Bala Singh was gone. He was 67. The news stunned fans and colleagues alike. Directors spoke of his discipline and dedication, how he approached each role as if it were his last. Younger actors remembered how he guided them with patience and honesty, treating film sets like classrooms, always teaching, always encouraging. Crowds gathered outside the hospital to mourn, lighting candles and offering prayers. Social media filled with tributes, highlighting scenes from his most iconic performances. Bala Singh's career stretched over decades, beginning in the theater before he made his breakthrough in the 1995 film Avataram. His portrayal of a ruthless gangster in that movie earned him nationwide recognition. From there, he appeared in more than 100 films, dramas, thrillers, political stories, always bringing the same unwavering focus to his craft. His death became a painful reminder that fame and talent offer no protection from life's quiet dangers. A man who had portrayed strength and ferocity on screen was undone not by violence or illness, but by a simple meal shared in celebration. For fans of Indian cinema, Bala Singh's passing remains one of the most unexpected modern tragedies, a sudden end to a towering presence. His legacy endures in every scene he ever performed, in the students he inspired, and in the unforgettable characters he brought to life. Number 9. Alexander Pisarev. On the morning of October 30th, 2022, the Russian MMA community was struck by news that felt impossible to accept. Alexander Pisarev, young, disciplined, and respected for his sharp technique inside the cage, had died suddenly at just 33 years old. He was in exceptional physical condition, training hard for upcoming fights, admired by teammates for his calm focus and relentless commitment. No one could have imagined that the danger awaiting him wasn't an opponent in the ring, but something quietly sitting in his own kitchen. The weekend before his death, Alexander shared a simple homemade meal with his wife. They ate fresh watermelon and a few pieces of fruit, nothing unusual, nothing that raised suspicion. But only hours later, both of them began feeling unwell. At first, it seemed like food that didn't sit right, the kind of discomfort athletes often ignore. But the symptoms escalated quickly. Alexander felt dizzy, numbness spread across his body, and breathing became increasingly difficult. His wife suffered similar symptoms and was taken to the hospital. She survived. Alexander did not. He collapsed in their apartment and never regained consciousness. When emergency responders arrived the next morning, they could do nothing. The early reports from Russian and international media pointed to severe food poisoning, possibly caused by contaminated watermelon. Investigators found no signs of struggle or foul play. Instead, they focused entirely on the food stored in the refrigerator. Samples were sent for testing, but the results were never fully released to the public, adding a layer of mystery that only deepened the sadness. His father later told reporters that his son had eaten fruit that may have spoiled during storage, an everyday oversight with devastating consequences. For someone who lived with rigorous diet control and athletic discipline, the idea that a simple piece of fruit could end his life felt unbearably cruel. Tributes poured in from across the MMA world. Teammates spoke of his precision, speed, humility, and the quiet professionalism that made him both a strong fighter and a respected friend. Fans wrote messages recalling his performances, his determination, and how he carried himself with calm confidence both inside and outside the cage. Many struggled to accept that a man whose body was conditioned to withstand punishing blows and extreme physical stress was lost to something silent, unseen, and harmless-looking. Alexander Pisarev's death remains one of the most shocking modern tragedies in combat sports, a reminder of how fragile life can be even for the strongest among us. A fighter who survived the brutality of the ring was undone not by violence, but by the hidden danger in an ordinary meal shared at home. Number 10. C. Martin Croker. On the evening of September 17, 2016, Atlanta's animation community was shaken by news that felt almost unreal. C. Martin Croker, animator, voice actor, creative architect of late-night absurdist humor, had passed away suddenly at the age of 54. To millions of viewers, he was the unmistakable voice behind Zorak and Moltar, characters who became icons of Cartoon Network's surreal, genre-bending series Space Ghost Coast to Coast. To his colleagues, he was the heartbeat of Adult Swim's early identity, a tireless artist whose imagination shaped an entire era of alternative animation. But that night, the man whose work filled television screens with chaotic energy and laughter spent his final hours alone, believing he was suffering from nothing more than a mild case of food poisoning. Earlier in the day, Martin had eaten sushi, something he enjoyed regularly, something he never imagined could be dangerous. That evening, he even joked online about feeling sick, posting comments that fans would revisit with heavy hearts after his death. As the night went on, he grew increasingly fatigued, his discomfort intensifying. He chalked it up to spoiled fish or exhaustion from long work hours, completely unaware of the danger building inside his body. By the time he went to bed, he assumed he would feel better by morning. Morning never came. When friends and coworkers failed to reach him, concern grew. Eventually, the news broke. Martin had died in his sleep. No official medical report was released, leaving the exact cause of death uncertain. But those close to him believed food poisoning might have played a role, perhaps triggering or masking a deeper underlying condition. The mystery only added to the tragedy. As tributes spread, the significance of his loss became painfully clear. Without Croker, Adult Swim would never have become what it did. He animated, voiced, designed, and shaped characters that became cultural cornerstones. Zorak's sneering laughter, Moltar's stoic delivery, the dry, bizarre humor of Space Ghost Coast to Coast, all of it carried Martin's fingerprints. He wasn't just part of the show, he was woven into its DNA. Colleagues shared memories of a man who stayed late in the studio, who brought sketches to life with infectious enthusiasm, who made everyone around him feel like animation wasn't just work, it was the most joyful chaos imaginable. Fans posted clips, artwork, and messages, grieving a creator who had shaped their childhoods and late-night laughs. What made his death even more haunting was its simplicity. After surviving the pressure of constant deadlines, creative battles, and the demands of a growing network, his life was cut short by what he assumed was a harmless bad meal. A creator whose imagination fueled some of television's strangest and most beloved moments was taken quietly, unexpectedly, with no warning at all. C. Martin Croker's legacy lives on every time someone revisits the world he helped build, a world of absurd humor, offbeat brilliance, and unforgettable characters.